Hello and welcome to another episode of the Beyond Shakespeare well, not podcast. It's the videos on YouTube. So yeah, we're fine. We're covering the second part of a first look session on Caesar's revenge, or the tragedy of Caesar and Pompey. But Pompey's already dead, so that's tragic for him. This was performed by students in Cambridge, probably around 1605, if I remember correctly. And I'm here filling in for Robert Crighton because, as you can see, he's not here. So yeah, you'll have to deal with me. We're going to take it from Act 3. These sections have prologues, but it's kind of, it might be a chorus in the middle rather than a prologue, because Discord prologues every section of the play. Oh yeah, sorry, it was Oxford. No, thank you for correcting me, Alan. It was Oxford. Cambridge. Oops. It's actually in the title of the document, so I should have known that. Anyway, I'm here to mess up. It's fine. So reading the play with me today, we have reading Caesar, Cato Jr., and Caesar's Ghost.
A spectral Alan in Suffolk.
Reading Anthony and Trebonius, we have...
Hello, my name's Lynn Freitas. I'm here in the Northwestern United States.
Reading Cleopatra, the love interest, Brutus and Second Roman is...
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Amisu, and I'm an author based in the southeast of England.
Reading Lord, Casca, Calphurnia, and Titinius, we have...
Kyle Di Roberto, an old Pope.
And last but certainly not least, we have reading Discord Dolabella, Camber or Camber, probably Camber in Latin, Genius, as we know, Petitioner, and Octavian is...
Bryony Sparrow, actor in the East Midlands of the UK with a lot of shoes to fill.
And I'm your sort of in-between host, transitional host, I don't know, whatever. Eric Karoulla. I was going to say Eric Crichton, and then I remembered I'm not Eric. I'm not related to Rob at all. Habit. I just got used to hearing it, right? And I'll be reading Cassius, First Roman, an Augur, and Bucolian. So basically pretty much everybody else, and stage directions and filling in chat and random things whenever necessary. So we're going to be going from Act 3, the prologue, Enter Discord.
Now Caesar rides triumphantly through Rome, and decks the Capitol with Pompey's spoil. Ambition now doth virtue's seat usurp, then thou, revengeful great Adastria queen, awake with horror of thy dubbing drum, and call the snaky furies from below, to dash the joy of their triumphing pride. Erinnys, kindle now thy Stygian brands, in discontented Brutus' boiling breast. Let Caesar die a bleeding sacrifice, unto the soul of thy dead country Rome. Why sleepest thou, Cassius? Wake thee from thy dream, and yet thou naught dost dream but blood and death. For dreadful visions do affright thy sleep, and howling ghosts with ghastly horrors cry, by Cassius' hand must wicked Caesar die. Now, Rome, cast off thy gaudy painted robes, and clothe thyself in sable-coloured weeds. Change thy vain triumphs into funeral pomps, and Caesar, cast thy laurel crown apart, and bind thy temples with sad cypress tree. Of wars thus peace ensues, of peace more harms than erst was wrought by tragic war's alarms.
Discord exits. Act 3, Scene 1. Enter Cassius. Hark how Caesarians with resounding shouts tell heavens of their pomps and victories. Caesar that long in idle pleasures lap, and dalliance vain of his proud courtesan hath lulled his stern and bloody thoughts asleep. Now in Rome's streets are Romans come to triumph, and to the Romans that shows those trophies sad, which from the Romans he with blood did get. The tyrant mounted in his golden chair rides drawn with milk-white palfreys in like pride, as Phoebus from his oriental gate, mounted upon the fiery phlegethons' backs, comes prancing forth, shaking his dewy locks. Caesar, thou art in glory's chiefest pride. Thy son is mounted in the highest point. Thou placed art in top of fortune's wheel. Her wheel must turn, thy glory must eclipse. Thy son descend and lose his radiant light. And if none be whose country's ardent love and loss of Roman liberty can move, I'll be the man that shall this task perform. Cassius hath vowed it to dead Pompey's soul. Cassius hath vowed it to afflicted Rome. Cassius hath vowed it, witnessed heaven and earth. And exit Cassius. Act 3, Scene 2. Enter Caesar, Antony, Dolabella, lords, 2 Romans, and others.
Now I have shaked off these womanish links in which my captive thoughts were chained afore by that fair charming Circe's wounding look, and now, like that same 10 years traveller, leaving behind me all my troubles past, I come awaited with attending fame, who through her shrill triumph doth my name resound, and makes proud Tiber and Ligurian Po, yet a sad witness of the sun god's loss, bear my name's glory to the ocean main, which to the world's end shall bound it again. As for the Phaeacian fields, the king of gods, with conquering spoils and Trophius proud returned, when great Typhoeus fell by thundering darts, and rode away with their celestial troops, in greatest pride through heaven's smooth paved way, so shall the Pompeius glory of my train, daring to match old Saturn's kingly son, call down these golden lamps from the bright sky, and leave heaven blind, my greatness to admire. This laurel garland, in fair conquest made, shall stain the pride of Ariadne's crown. Clad in the beauty of my glorious lamps, Cassiopeia, leaves thy starry chair, and on my sun-bright chariot wheels attend, which in triumphing pomp doth Caesar bear. To earth's astonishment and amaze of heaven, now look, proud Rome, from thy sevenfold seat, and see the world, thy subject, at thy feet, and Caesar, ruling over all the world.
Now let us cease to boast of Romulus, first author of high Rome and Roman's name, nor talk of Scaurus, worthy Africans, the scourge of Libya, and of Carthage pride, nor of unconquered Paulus, dauntless mind, since Caesar's glory then exceeds as far as shining Phoebe doth the dimmest star.
Like as the ship lost the star by which his doubtful ship he did direct wanders in the darkness and in cloudy night, so having lost my star, my governess, which did direct me with her sun-bright ray, in grief I wander and in sad dismay. And though of triumphs and of victories I do the outward signs of trophies bear, yet see mine inward mind under that face, whose colors to these triumphs is disgrace.
As when from vanquished Macedonia, triumphing o'er King Perseus' overthrow, conquering Emilius in great glory came, showing the world spoil which he had bereft from the successors of great Alexander, with such high pomp, yea, great victories, Caesar triumphing comes into fair Rome.
In this one champion, all is comprehended, which in ancient times in several men commended. Alcides' strength, Achilles' dauntless heart, great Philip's son by magnanimity, stern Paris' valor, and great Hector's might, and all the prowess that either Greece or Troy brought forth in that same 10 years Trojans' war.
Fair Rome, great monument of Romulus, thou mighty seat of consuls and of kings, over victorious now earth's conqueror, welcome thy valiant son that to thee brings spoils of the world and exequies of kings.
conquering issue of immortal Jove, which in the Persian spoils first fetched his fame, then through Hespedis, the Caspian waves, unto the sea unknown his praise did propagate, must to my glory veil his conquering crest. The Libyc sands and the Afric certs he passed, Bactrians and Zogdians, known but by their names, whereby his arms resistless powers subdued, and Ganges streams congealed with Indian blood, could not transport his burthen to the sea. But these ne'er learned at Mars his games to play, nor tossed these bloody balls of dread and death. Hurrah and proud Samara speaks my praise. Prodon's shrill Titans through their brazen trumps echo my fame against the Gallian towers. And Isis wept to see her daughter Thames change her crystal to vermilion sad. The big-boned German and the Helvetian stout, which well have learned to toss a tusked spear, and well concur a noble stomached horse, can Caesar's valour witness to their grief. Juba, the mighty Afric potentate, that with his coal-black negroes to the field, backed with Numidian and Gaetulian horse, hath felt the puissance of a Roman sword. I entered Asia, with my banners spread, displayed the eagle on the Euxine sea, by Jason first and venturous Argo cut, and in the rough Cimmerian Bosphorus, the heavy witness of Pharnaces' fight, and now come to triumph here in Rome, with greater glory than e'er Roman did.
Exit everybody. Sound drums and trumpets amain. Enter Anthony.
Alas, these triumphs move me not at all, but only do renew remembrance sad of her triumphing and imperious looks, which is the saint and idol of my thoughts. First was I wounded by her piercing eye, next prisoner ta'en by her captivating speech. And now she triumphs o'er my conquered heart in Cupid's chariot riding in her pride, and leads me, captive bound in beauty's bonds. Caesar's lip love that ne'er touched his heart, but present triumph in the absent fire, is now waxed cold. But mine, I was more deep engraven in the marble of my breast, nor time nor fortune e'er can raise it out.
Enter Anthony's bonus genius. Okay, good spirit.
Antony, base female Antony, thou woman's soldier, fit for knight's assaults, hast thou so soon forgot the discipline and willsome tasks thy youth was trained to? Thy soft down pillow was a helm of steel, the cold damp earth a bed to ease thy toil. Affrighted slumbers were thy golden sleeps, hunger and thirst thy sweetest delicates, stern horror, ghastly wounds, pale grisly death, thy wind depressing pleasures and delights. And now so soon hath one enchanted face these manly labours lulled in drowsy sleep. The gods, whose messenger I here do stand, will not then drown thy fame in idleness, yet must Philippi see thy high exploits, and all the world ring of thy victories.
Say what thou art, that in this dreadful sort forbiddest me of my Cleopatra's love.
I am thy bonus genius, Antony, which to thy dull ears this do prophesy. That fatal face which now doth so bewitch thee, like to that vain unconstant Greekish dame, which made the stately Ilian towers to smoke, shall 1,000 bleeding Romans lay on ground. Hymen in sable, not in saffron robes, instead of rounds shall doleful dirges sing. For nuptial tapers shall the Furies bear, blue burning torches to increase your fear. The bridegroom's skull shall make the bridal bonds, and hell-born hags shall dance an antic round, while Hecate, Hymen, hey, hey, Hymen, cries, and now methinks I see the sea's blue face, hidden with ships, and now the trumpets sound, and weak Canopus with the eagle strives, Neptune amazed at this dreadful sight, calls blue sea gods for to behold the fight. Glaucus and Panopia, Proteus old, who now for fear changeth his wonted shape. Thus your vain love, which with delight begun, an idle sport shall end with blood and shame.
Exit James.
What was't my genius that me threatened thus? They said that from our birth he doth preserve, and on me will he pour these miseries? What burning torches, what alarms of war, what shames did he my loves prophesy? Oh no, he comes as winged Mercury from his great father Jove, to Anchises' son, to warn him, leave the wanton dalliance and charming pleasures of the Tyrian court. Then wake thee, Anthony, from this idle dream, cast off these base effeminate passions, which melt the courage of thy manlike mind, and with thy sword receive thy sleeping praise.
Exit Anthony. Moving on to Act 3, Scene 3. Enter Brutus.
How long in base ignoble patience shall I behold my country's woeful fall? O you brave Romans, and amongst the rest, most noble Brutus, fair befall your souls. Let peace and fame your honoured graves await, who through such perils and such tedious wars won your great labours prize sweet liberty. But we that with our life did freedoms take, and did no sooner men than free men breath, to loose it now continuing so long, and with such laws, such vows, such oaths confirmed, can nothing but disgrace and shame expect. But soft, what see I written on my seat? O utinam brute juveres. What meaneth this? Thy courage dead? But stay, read forward. Brute mortuus es. Aye, thou art dead indeed, thy courage dead, thy care and love, thy dearest country dead, thy wonted spirit and noble stomach dead.
Enter Cassius. The times draw near by gracious heavens assigned, when Philip's son must fall in Babylon, in his triumphing proud presumption. But see where melancholy Brutus walks, whose mind is hammering on no mean conceit. Then sound him, Cassius, see how he is inclined. How fares young Brutus in this tottering state?
Even as an idle gazer, that beholds his country's wraps and cannot succour bring.
But will Brutus always in this dream remain, and not be moved with his country's moan?
Oh, that I might in Lethe's endless sleep, and ne'er awaking pleasant rest of death, close up mine eyes, that I no more might see poor Rome's distress and country's misery.
No, Brutus, live and wake thy sleepy mind. Stir up those dying sparks of honor's fire, which in thy gentle breast were wont to flame. See how poor Rome, oppressed with country's wrongs, implores thine aid that bred thee to that end. High kinsman's soul from heaven commands thine aid, that lastly must by thee receive his end. Then purchase honor by glorious death, or live renowned by ending Caesar's life.
I can no longer bear the tyrant's pride. I cannot hear my country cry for aid, and not be moved with her piteous moan. Brutus, thy soul shall never more complain, that from thy lineage and most virtuous stock a bastard, weak, degenerate branch is born, for to disdain the honour of thy house. No more shall now the Romans call me dead. I'll live again, and rouse my sleepy thoughts, and with the tyrant's death begin this life. Rome, now I come to rear thy states decayed, when all this hand shall cure thy fatal wound, or else this heart by bleeding on the ground.
Now heaven, I see, applauds this enterprise, and Rhadamanth into the fatal urn that loatheth death hath thrust the tyrant's name. Caesar, the life that thou in blood hast led, shall heap us bloody vengeance on thine head. And with that rhyme, they both exit. Act 3, Scene 4. Enter Anthony, Dolabella, lords, and others.
Now servile Parthia, proud in Roman spoil, shall pay her ransom unto Caesar's ghost, which unrevenged rose by the Stygian strand, exclaiming on our sluggish negligence. Leave to lament, brave Romans. Lo, I come, like to the god of battle, mad with rage, to dye their rivers with vermilion red. I'll fill Armenians' plains and Medians' hills with carcasses of bastard Scythian brood, and their proud princes will I bring to Rome, chained in fetters to my chariot wheels. Desire of fame and hope of sweet revenge, which in my breast hath kindled such a flame, as nor Euphrates, nor sweet Tiber's stream can quench or stack this fervent boiling heat. These conquering soldiers that have followed me from vanquished France to sun-born burnt Mero, matching the best of Alexander's troops, shall with their looks put Parthian foes to flight, and make them twice turn their deceitful looks.
The restless mind that harbors sorrowing thoughts and is the child of noble enterprise doth never cease from honor's toilsome task till it bring forth eternal glory's brood. So you, fair branch of virtue's great descent, now having finished civil wars, sad broils, intend by Parthian triumphs to enlarge your country's limits and your own renown. But cause in civil war, with civil writs we find none but a king that conquers can achieve, both for to crown your deeds with due reward and as auspicious signs of victory. We here present you with this diadem.
And even as kings were banished Rome's high throne, cause their base vice, her honor did disdain. So to your rule does she submit herself, that her renown thereby might brighter shine.
I think you, lords, that 'tis ambitious spur that pricketh Caesar to these high attempts, or hope of crowns, or thought of diadems, that made me wade through honour's perilous deep. Virtue unto itself a sure reward, my labours all shall have a pleasing doom. If you but judge, I will deserve of Rome. Did those old Romans suffer so much ill? Such tedious sieges, such enduring wars, Tarquinius hates and great Porsenna's threats, to banish proud imperious tyrants' rule? And shall my ever-daring thoughts contend to mar what they have brought to happy end? Or think you cause my fortune hath expelled? My friends, come let us march in jollity. I'll triumph monarch-like our conquering Rome, or end my conquests with my country's spoils.
O noble princely resolution, these or not victories that we so call, that only blood and murderous spoils can vaunt. But this shall be thy victory brave, prince, that thou hast conquered thy own climbing thoughts, and with thy virtue beat ambition down, and this no less emblazon shall thy fame. And then those great deeds and chivalrous attempts that made thee conqueror in Thessalia.
This noble mind and princely modesty, which in contempt of honor's brightness shines, makes us to wish the more for such a prince, whose virtue, not ambition, won that praise. Nor shall we think it loss of liberty, or Roman liberty anyway impeached, for to subject us to his princely rule, whose thoughts fair virtue and true honor guides. Vouchsafe then to accept this golden crown, a gift not equal to thy dignity.
Content you, lords, for I will be no king, an odious name unto the Roman care. Caesar I am, and will be Caesar still. No other title shall my fortunes grace, which I will make a name of higher state than monarch, king, or world's great potentate. Of Jove in heaven shall rule it be the sky, the earth and Caesar with like majesty. This is the sceptre that my crown shall bear, and this the golden diadem I'll wear, a far more rich and royal ornament than all the crowns that the proud Persian gave. Forward, my lords, let trumpets sound our march, and drums strike up revenge's sad alarms. Parthia, We come with like insensate heat, as great Atreides with the great angry Greeks, marching in fury to pale walls of Troy.
Exit everybody. Act 3, Scene 5, where this is taking along nicely. Enter Cassius, Brutus, Trebonius, Camber, and Casca.
Brave lords, whose forward resolution shows you descended from true Roman line, see how old Rome in winter of her age rejoiceth in such princely budding hopes, no less than once she in Decius' virtue did, or great Camillus, bringing back of spoils. And then, brave lords of this attempt begun, the sacred Senate doth commend the deed. Your country's love incites you to the deed. Virtue herself makes warrant of the deed. Then, noble Romans, as you have begun, never desist until this deed be done.
To thee revenge doth Cassius kneel him down, thou that brings quiet to perplexed souls, and born in hell yet harpers to heaven's joys, whose favor slaughter is and dandling death, bloodthirsty pleasures and misboding bliss, brought forth of fury, nurse of cankered hate, to drown in woe the pleasures of the world. Thou shalt no more in duskish Erebus and darksome hell obscure thy deity. Instead of Jove, thou shalt my goddess be. To thee fair temples Cassius will erect, and on thine altar, built of Parian stone, whole hecatombs will I offer up. Laugh, gentle goddess, on my bold attempt, yet in thy laughter let pale meager death be wrapped in wrinkles of thy murthering spoils.
Another Tarquin is to be expelled. Another Brutus lives to act the deed. 'Tis not one nation that this Tarquin wrongs. All Rome is stained with his unruled desires. She whose imperial sceptre was envied to conquer kings and control the world, cannot abate the glory of her state, to yield or bow to one man's proud desires. Sweet country Rome, here Brutus vows to thee, to lose his life or else to set thee free.
Shame be his share that doth his life so prize, that to Rome's will it would not sacrifice. My poignard's point shall pierce his heart as deep, as erst his sword Rome's bleeding side did gore, and change his garments to the purple dye with which our blood had stained sad thessaly.
He doth refuse the title of a king, but we do see he doth usurp the thing.
Our ancient freedom he impeaches more than ever king or tyrant did before.
The senators by him are quite disgraced. Rome, Romans, city, freedom, all defaced.
We come not lords as unresolved men, for to show causes of the deed decreed. This shall dispute for me and tell him why this heart, hand, mind hath marked him out to die. If it be true that fury's quenchless thirst is pleased with quaffing of ambitious blood, then all you devils whet my poignard's point, and I will broach you blood-sucking heart, which full of blood must blood store to you yield. Were it a pierced flint or marble stone, why, so it is, for Caesar's heart's a stone, else would be moved with my country's moan. They say you furies instigate men's minds and push their arms to finish bloody deeds. Prick then mine elbow, goad my bloody hand, that it may gore Caesar's ambitious heart. Exit all. Act 3, Scene 6. Enter Caesar and Calphurnia.
Why thinks my love to fright me with her dreams? Shall bugbears fear Caesar's undaunted heart, whom Pompey's fortune never could amaze, nor the French horse, nor Mauritanian bow, and now shall vain illusions me affright, or shadows daunt, whom substance could not quell?
O dearest Caesar, hast thou seen thyself, as troubled dreams to me did feign thee seen, torn, wounded, maimed, blood slaughtered, slain? O thyself wouldst then have dread thyself, and feared to thrust thy life to dangerous mouth.
There you bewray the folly of your dream, for I am well, alive, uncaught, untouched.
'Twas in the Senate house I saw thee so, and yet thou dreadless thither needs will go.
The Senate is a place of peace, not death, but these were but deluding visions.
Oh, do not set so little by the heavens. Dreams are divine. Men say they come from Jove. Beware betimes, and be not wise too late. Men's good endeavors change the wills of fate.
Weep not, fair love. Let not thy woeful tears bode me. I know what thou wouldst not have to hap. Who'll disdain mine honour won in fight, to say a woman's dream could me affright?
O Caesar, no dishonour canst thou get in seeking to prevent unlucky chance. Foolhardy men do run upon their death. Be thou in this persuaded by thy wife. No valour bids thee cast away thy life.
'Tis dastard cowardice and childish fear to dread those dangers that do not appear.
Thou must, sad chance, by forecast wise resist, or being done, say bootless had I wist.
But for to fear where there's no suspicion will to my greatness be derision.
There lurks an adder in the greenest grass. Dangers of purpose always hide their face.
Persuade no more. Caesar's resolved to go.
Heavens resolve that he may safe return. For if aught happens to my love but well, his danger shall be doubled with my death.
Exit Calphurnia and enter an Augur. Aye, come they are, but yet they are not gone.
What hast thou sacrificed, as custom is, before we enter in the Senate house?
Oh, stay those steps that lead thee to thy death, the angry heavens with threatening dire aspect, boding mischance and baleful massacres, menace the overthrow of Caesar's power. Saturn sits frowning on the god of war, who in their sad conjunction do conspire, uniting both their baleful influences to heap mischance and danger to thy life. The sacrificing beast is heartless found. Sad ghastly sights and raised ghosts appear, which fill the silent woods with groaning cries. The hoarse night raven tunes the cheerless voice and calls the baleful owl and howling dog to make a consort. In whose sad song is this? Near is the overthrow of Caesar's bliss. And exit the Augur.
The world is set to fray me from my wits. There's heartless sacrifice and visions, howling and cries, the ghastly groans of ghosts. Soft, Caesar, do not make a mockery of these prodigious signs sent from the heavens. Calphurnia's deem, lumping which with Augur's words, show, if thou markest it, Caesar, cause to fear. This day the Senate there shall be dissolved, and I'll return to my Calphurnia home.
One gives him a paper.
What hast thou there that thou presents us with?
A thing, my lord, that doth concern your life, which love to you and hate of such a deed makes me reveal unto your excellence.
Caesar laughs.
Smilest thou, or thinkest thou it some idle toy? Thou'lt frown anon to read so many names that have conspired and sworn thy bloody death.
Exit petitioner, enter Cassius. Now must I come and with close little girds deceive the prey that I'll devour anon. My lord, the sacred Senate doth expect your royal presence in Pompey's court.
Cassius, they tell me that some danger's nigh, and death pretended in the Senate house.
What danger or what wrong can be where harmless gravity and virtue sits? 'Tis past all danger, present death it is, nor is it wrong to render due desert. To fear the senators without a cause will be a cause while they'll be to be feared.
The Senate stays for me in Pompey court, and Caesar's here and dare not go to them. Back hence all dread of danger and of death. What must be, must be. Caesar's pressed for all.
Now have I sent him headlong to his end, vengeance and death awaiting his heels. Caesar, thy life now hangeth on a twine, which by my poniard must be cut in twain. Thy chair of state now turned is to thy bier, thy princely robes to make thy winding sheet. The senators, the mourners are o'er the hearse, and Pompey's court thy dreadful grave shall be. The senators all cry at once.
Hold down the tyrant, stab him to death.
How doth the music play, and this the song that Cassius' heart hath thirsted for so long? And now my poniard in this amazing sound must strike that touch that must his life confound. Stab on, thus should your poniards play, a loud, deep note upon this trembling K. Stab him. Bucolian sends thee this. He stabs him.
And cumber this.
He stabs him.
Take this from Casca for to quit Rome's wrongs.
Why, murderous villains, know whom you strike? 'Tis Caesar, Caesar whom your poignards pierce, Caesar, whose name might well affright such slaves. O heavens that see and hate this heinous guilt, but thou, immortal Joan, that idle holdest deluding thunder in thy fainting hand, why stayest thy dreadful doom, and dost withhold thy three-forked engine to revenge my death? If my plaints the heavens cannot move, then black as hell and Pluto be thou judge, you grisly daughters of the cheerless night, whose hearts nor prayer nor pity e'er could lend. Leave the back dungeon of your chaos deep, come and with flaming brands into the world, revenge and death bring seated in your eyes, and plague these villains for their treacheries.
Enter Brutus.
I have held Antony with a vain discourse, the whilst the deed's in execution. But lives he still? Yet doth the tyrant breathe, challenging heavens with his blasphemies. Here Brutus maketh a passage for thy soul, to plead thy cause for them whose aid thou cravest.
What, Brutus too? Nay, nay, then let me die. Nothing wounds deeper than ingratitude.
I, bloody Caesar, Brutus too, doth give thee this and this to quiet Rome's wrongs.
Oh, had the tyrant had as many lives as that fell Hydra born in Lerna Lake, that here I might still stab and kill, till that more lives might be extinguished than his ambition. Romans slaughtered. Good Trebonius, we cannot hear you.
How heavens have justly on the author's head returned the guiltless blood which he hath shed. And Pompey, he who caused thy tragedy, here breathless lies before thy noble statue.
Enter Antony.
What cries of death resound within mine ears, whom I do see great Caesar butchered thus? What said I? Great? Aye, Caesar, thou wast great. But oh, that greatness was that brought thy death. O unjust heavens, if heavens at all there be, since virtue's wrongs make question of your powers, how could your starry eyes this shame behold? How could the sun see this and not eclipse? Fair bud of fame, ill-cropped before thy time, what lurking tiger or wild savage boar, for he more heard than boar or tiger was, durst do so vile and execrate deed? Could not those eyes, so full of majesty, nor priesthood, oh, not thus to be profaned, nor yet the reverence to the sacred place, nor flowing eloquence of thy golden tongue, nor name made famous through immortal merit, deter those murderers from so vile a deed? Sweet friend, accept these obsequies of mine, which here with tears I do unto thee hearse. And thou, being placed among the shining stars, shalt down from heaven behold what deep revenge I will inflict upon thy murderers.
Exit Antony with the Caesar in his arms. Thus endeth Act 3. Well, that was quick. So we add further, we add Caesar to the body count. And I'm guessing this is the bit where Caesar's revenge kind of begins, because he just died. So, the tragedy is over. Any thoughts since we're here, Alan?
Well, there were one or two comments about he was taking an inordinate time to die. I mean, in the context of most operas, he's been remarkably quick. There will be at least a 4-stanza aria.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I've been impressed by how it's sort of like, okay, the rhyme helps, but it just kind of takes along quite nicely.
Bounces nicely, doesn't it?
Yeah. Any other thoughts? We have time, so feel free to express yourselves. Lynn is sort of checking her glasses and pondering, and as is Elizabeth. Lynn, then Elizabeth, and then Kyle.
Yeah, I was struck by how angry the assassins are. Like, we're gonna kill him and he deserves it. Stab. And which I kind of wasn't expecting, because Discord called Caesar wicked, did he not? So who's the bad guy here? I mean, the assassins don't seem like, well, this is something we have to do for the good of our country. That's kind of not what they say. They seem really bloodthirsty. But Discord implies that Caesar kind of deserved it. So, like, everybody's a bad guy here.
Yeah. Elizabeth.
Oh, I like what Lynn said. I love that. They're all bad. There's no goody there. And it's kind of like, there's no honor amongst thieves. I love the way Antony is so sad that Caesar's dead, but then he has to plot his revenge. And every time that word came out, I thought, okay, this is melodrama. It's funny. It's actually funny, because, like, how much revenge can you take? How many times can you stab Caesar? And how many,
right?
And how many people can be complicit in his death? I think Brutus came across quite well in this. I think I like the way he was like, yes, me too. The Brutus, tu Brute, and he said, yes, I'm also the one that does the bad things. And I thought, okay, this is fun. I can imagine the students performing this, really enjoying themselves.
Yeah. Alan, then Kyle, sorry.
There's absolutely no political relevance whatsoever to a group of classicists currently in office in the UK.
No, of course not. No.
Tu Boris.
Kyle.
I was curious by that moment where we had, was it Anthony and his alter ego?
Yeah.
It was Anthony, right? That was weird. I mean, I've thought of the genius as being like a conscience or something like that, right? Equivalent to conscience. And this seems to be external and feminine, and it's just interesting.
No, the genius is external. It's a guiding spirit, and tradition has it that it was kind of connected with Hercules somehow. So no, your genius is actually not internal in the Renaissance conception, as I understand it. It's more of it's a guiding spirit. It's your guardian angel.
I was thinking of like Socrates saying, he won't allow him to do this or that, and this seems like it's functioning in that way. But I didn't know it was so external.
Yeah, I was thinking more, it's kind of like the sort of don't press the red button, and then obviously he does. Right. But yeah, I think Bryony had a thought, then Elizabeth, and then we should move on.
I'm not meaning to disagree, but I don't really get feminine from that character at all, especially not when he's saying what he says about women. So I mean, I don't know, maybe you did see something that I missed, but like reading it, aside from the fact that I am a female reading it, like it was horrible. Yeah. He was basically saying, don't be such a girl, psh, psh, psh.
Yeah, I was referring to it's in the language itself. He says it's this feminine passion, it's this, so, but it's clearly a misogynistic feminine
passion is for fear, whatever. That's what's feminine. So
Elizabeth.
Yeah, I was just referring to what Kyle was saying. I think the line was, cast off these base effeminate passions which melt the courage of thy man-like mind.
That's him saying, "Don't be such a big girl's blouse," isn't it? Surely.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep. Any other thoughts before we charge on into Act 4? Aside from, it took him a while to die. Yeah. Yes. I do like how Cassius appears suddenly in Act 3, just because, things have to happen in Act 3. Otherwise, he'd still be alive. Totally. Anyway, Act 4, moving on. Prologue, enter discord.
Brutus, thou hast what long desire hath sought. Caesar lies weltering in his purple gore. Thou art the author of Rome's liberty, proud in thy murthering hand and bloody knife. Yet think Octavian and stern Antony cannot let pass this murder unrevenged. Thessalia once again must see your blood, and Roman drums must strike up new alarms. Hark how Bellona shakes her angry lance, and envy clothed in her crimson weed. Methinks I see the fiery shields to clash, eagle 'gainst eagle, Rome 'gainst Rome to fight. Philippi, Caesar, quittance must thy wrongs, whereas that hand shall stab that traitorous heart that durst encourage it to work thy death. Thus from thine ashes Caesar doth arise, as from Medea's hapless scattered teeth. New flames of wars and new outrageous broils now smile, Emetheia, that even in thy top Rome's victory and pride shall be entombed, and those great conquerors of the vanquished earth shall with their swords come there to dig their graves.
Exit discord, and I just lost my script for a moment. And Act 4, Scene 1, enter Octavian, who is conveniently played by the same person.
Mourn, gentle heavens, for you have lost your joy. Mourn, grieved earth, thy ornament is gone. Mourn, Rome, in great, thy father is deceased. Mourn, thou Octavian, thou it is must mourn. Mourn for thy uncle who is dead and gone. Mourn for thy father too ungently slain. Mourn for thy friend whom thy mishap hath lost. For father, uncle, friend, go, make thy moan, who all did live, who all did die in one. But here I vow these black and sable weeds, the outward signs of inward heaviness, shall changed be ere long to crimson hue, and this soft raiment to a coat of steel. Caesar, no more I hear the mournful songs. The tragic pomp of his sad exequies and deadly burning torches are at hand. I must accompany the mournful troop, and sacrifice my tears to the gods below.
Exit Octavian. Enter Caesar's hearse, Calpurnia, Octavian again with the hearse, Antony, Cicero, Dolabella, two Romans, a lord, and mourners.
Sit down the hearse and let Calpurnia weep. Weep for her lord and bathe his wounds in tears. Fear of the world and only hope of Rome, thou whilst thou lived was Calpurnia's joy, and being dead my joys are dead with thee. Here doth my care and comfort resting lie. Let them accompany thy mournful hearse.
Cicero.
Cicero?
I don't think it's been given out.
I believe this. One second, let me just double check because I have my notes. In which case, I will just. I was going to say, feel free to talk amongst yourselves, but then I realized half of you are muted and the other half are not. Apologies. Yes, my notes being on my phone is convenient. Okay, so no Cicero. In that case, Elizabeth.
Yeah. All right. This is the hearse of virtue and renown. Here strew red roses and sweet violets, and laurel garlands for to crown his fame, the princely weed of mighty conquerors. These worthless obsequies poor Rome bestows upon thy sacred ashes and dear hearse.
And as a token of thy living praise and fame immortal, take this laurel wreath, which witnesseth thy name shall never die. And with this take the love and tears of Rome. For on my tomb shall still engraven be thy loss, her grief, thy deaths, her pitying thee.
Unwilling do I come to pay this debt, though not unwilling for to crown desert. Oh, how much rather had I this bestowed on thee returning from foes' overthrow, when living virtue did require such meed, than for to crown thy virtue being dead.
Those wreaths that in thy life our conquest crowned, and our fair triumphs beauty glorified, now in thy death do serve thy hearse to adorn, for Caesar's living virtues to be crowned, not to be wept as buried underground.
Thou whilst thou livest wast fair virtue's flower, crowned with eternal honour and renown. To thee, being dead, Flora both crowns and flowers, the chiefest virtues of our mother earth, doth give to gratulate thy noble hearse. Let then thy soul divine vouchsafe to take these worthless obsequies our love doth make.
All that I am is but despair and grief. This all I give to celebrate thy death. What funeral pomp of riches and of pelf do you expect? Calpurnia gives herself.
You that to Caesar justly did decree honors divine and sacred reverence, and oft him grace with titles well deserved, of country's father, stay of commonwealth, and that which never any bare before, inviolate, holy, consecrate, untouched. Do see this friend of Rome, this country's father, this son of lasting fame and endless praise, and in immortal trunk, immortal virtue, slaughtered, profaned, butchered like a beast by traitorous hands and damned parricides. Recount those deeds and see what he hath done, subdued those nations which 300 years remained unconquered, still afflicting Rome, and recompensed the fiery capital with many cities unto ashes burnt. And this reward, these thanks you render him. Here lies he dead to whom you owe your lives. But you, this slaughtered body bleeds, by you this slaughtered body bleeds again, which oft for you hath bled in fearful fight. Sweet wounds in which I see distressed Rome from her pierced sides to pour forth streams of blood, Be you witness of my sad soul's grief, and of my tears which wounded heart doth bleed, not such as use from womanish eyes proceed.
And were the deed most worthy and unblamed, yet you unworthily did do the same, who being partakers with his enemies, by Caesar all were saved from death and harm, and for the punishment you should have had, you were preferred to princely dignities. Rulers and lords of provinces were you made. Thus thankless men he did prefer of naught, that by their hands his murder might be wrought.
All at once, except Anthony and Octavian. Revenge! Revenge upon the murderers!
Brave lords, this worthy resolution shows your dearest love and great affection, which to this slaughtered prince you always bear. And may like bloody chance befall my life, if I be slack for to revenge his death.
Now on, my lords, this body let's inter amongst the monuments of Roman kings, and build a temple to his memory, honouring therein his sacred deity.
Exit all. Now we jump to Act 4, Scene 2, which is basically continuing into Act 4, Scene 2, where Cassius and Brutus have acquired an army, and they enter. Now Roman's proud foe, world's common enemy, in his greatest height and chiefest jollity, in the sacred Senate house is done to death, even as the consecrated ox which sounds at horny altars in his dying pride, with flowery leaves and garlands all bedight, stands proudly waiting for the hasted stroke, till he, amazed with the dismal sound, falls to the earth and stains the holy ground. Spoils and riches of the conquered world are now but idle trophies of his tomb. His laurel garlands do but crown his chair, his sling, his shield, and fatal bloody spear, which he in battle oft against Rome did bear, now serve for naught but rusty monuments.
So Romulus, when proud ambition his former virtue and renown had stained, did by the senators receive his end, but soft what bodes Titinius hasting speed.
Enter Titinius.
The frantic people, The frantic people and impatient by Antony's exhorting to revenge, run madding through the bloody streets of Rome, crying revenge and murdering they go, all those that caused Caesar's overthrow.
The wavering people pitying Caesar's death do rage at us who for to win their weal. Spare not the danger of our dearest lives, but since no safety Rome for us affords, Brutus will haste to our provinces, I into Tyre, thou into Macedon, where we will muster up such martial bands as shall affright our following enemies.
In Thessaly we'll meet the enemy, and in that ground disdained with Pompey's blood, and fruitful made with Roman massacre, will either sacrifice our guilty foe to appease the furies of these howling ghosts that wander restless through the sheamy ground, or else that Thessaly be a common tomb to bury those that fight to enfranchise Rome.
Bravely resolved, I see young Brutus' mind, strengthened with force of virtue's sacred rule, condemneth death, and holds proud chance in scorn.
I, that before feared not to do the deed, shall never now repent it being done. No more I fortuned like the Roman lord, whose faith brought death yet with immortal fame. I kiss thy hand for doing such a deed, and thank my heart for this so noble thought, and bless the heavens for favouring my attempts. For noble Rome, and if thou beest not free, yet I have done whatever lay in me. And worthy friend, as both our thoughts conspired, and joined in union to perform this deed, this acceptable deed to heavens and Rome, so let's continue in our high resolve, and as we have with honour thus begun, so let's persist until our lives be done.
Then let us go, and with our warlike troops collected from our several provinces, make Asia subject to our conquering arms. Brutus, thou hast commanded the Illyrian bands, the feared Celts and Lusitanian horse, Parthians proud and Thracians born in war, and Macedon yet proud with our old acts, with all the flower of lovely Thessaly under my warlike colours there shall march. New come from Syria and from Babylon, the warlike Mede and the Arabian bow, the Parthian fighting when he seems to fly, those conquering Gauls that built their seats in Greece, and all the clusters on the Mirapont. Exit all. Act 4, Scene 3. Enter Caesar's ghost.
Out of the horror of those shady vaults, where centaurs, harpies, pains, and furies fell, the gods and ghosts and ugly gorgons dwell. My restless soul comes here to tell his wrongs. Hail to thy walls, thou pride of all the world. Thou art the place where whilom in my life my seat of mounting honour was erected, and to my proud throne that seems to check the heavens, now my pomp and I are laid more low with these associates of my overthrow. Here ancient Assur and proud Belus lies, Ninnius the first, that sought a monarch's name, Atrides, fierce with the Aeacides, the Greek heroes and the Trojan flower, bloodthirsting Cyrus and his conquering youth, that sought to fetch his pedigree from heaven, stern Romulus, proud Tarquinius, the mighty Syrians and Pontic kings, Alcides and the stout Carthaginian lord, the fatal enemy to the Roman name, ambitious Sylla and fierce Marius, and both the Pompeys by me done to death. I am the last not least of the same crew, look on my deeds and say what Caesar was. Massalia, Egypt, Pontus, Africa, Spain, Britain, Almany, and France saw many a bloody trial of my worth. Why do I my glory thus restrain, when all the world was but a chariot, wherein I rode triumphing in my pride? But what avails this tale of what I was, since in my chiefest height Brutus' based hand, with 23 wounds my heart did gore, gave me my sword and shield, I'll be revenged. My mortal wounding spear and golden crest, I will dishorse my foeman in the field. Alas, poor Caesar, thou a shadow art, an airy substance, wanting force and might. Then will I go and cry upon the world, exclaim on Antony and Octavian, which seek through discord and dissensions broils to imbrue their weapons in each other's blood, and lead to execute my just revenge. I hear the drums and bloody trumpets sound. Oh, how this sight my grieved soul doth wound.
Enter Anthony at one door, Octavian at another, both with soldiers.
Now, martial friends, competitors in arms, you that will follow Antony to fight, whom stately Rome have oft her counsel seen, graced with eternal trophies of renown, with Libyan triumphs and Iberian spoils, who scorns to have his honor now disdained, or credit blemished by a boy's disgrace. Prepare your dauntless stomachs to the fight, where without striking you shall overcome.
Fellows in warfare which have often served under great Caesar, my deceased sire, and have returned the conquerors of the world, clad in the spoils of all the Orient, that will not brook that any Roman lord should injure mighty Julius Caesar's son. Recall your wonted valour and these hearts that never entertained ignoble thoughts, and make my first war fair and fortunate.
Strike up drums and let your banners fly. Thus will we set upon the enemy.
Cease drums to strike and fold your banners up. Wake not Bellona with your trumpets' clang, nor call unwilling Mars unto the field. See, Romans, my wounds not yet closed up, the bleeding monuments of Caesar's wrongs. Have you so soon forgot my life and death? My life wherein I reared your fortunes up, my death wherein my reared fortune fell, my life admired and wondered at of men, my death which seemed unworthy to the gods, my life which heaped on you rewards and gifts, my death now begs one gift, a just revenge.
A chilly cold possesseth all my joints, and pale wan fear doth seize my fainting heart.
Oh, see how terrible my father's looks. My hair stands stiff to see his grisly hue. Alas, I dare not look him in the face, and words do cleave to my benumbed jaws.
For shame, weak Antony, throw thy weapons down. Son, sheathe thy sword, not now for to be drawn. Brutus must feel the heavy stroke thereof. But if that needs, you will into the field, and that war's envy pricks your forward hate, to slake your fury with each other's blood, then forward on to your prepared deaths. Let sad Alecto sound her fearful trump. Revenge arise in loathsome sable weeds, night shining treasons and unquenched hates, horror and ugly murder, night's black child. Let stern Megaera on her thundering drum play ghastly music to comfort your deaths. Banner to banner, foot against foot opposed, sword against sword, shield against shield, and life to life. Let death go raging through your armoured ranks, and load himself with heaps of murdered men, and let heaven's justice send you all to hell.
Shamest thou not, Antony, to draw thy sword on Caesar's son for rude, rash, youthful brawls, and dost let pass their treasons unrevenged that Caesar's life and glory both did end?
Shame of myself, and this intended fight doth make me fear to approach this dreadful sight. Forgive my slackness to revenge thy wrongs. Pardon my youth that rashly was misled through vain ambition for to do this deed.
Then join your hands, and here let battle cease. Change fear to joy, and war to smooth-faced peace.
Then, Father, here, in sight of heaven and thee, I give my hand and heart to Antony.
Take likewise mine, the hand that once was vowed to be imbrued in thy lukewarm blood, which now shall strike in young Octavian's rights.
Now swear by all the deities of heaven, all gods and powers you do adore and serve, for to return my mirth on their cruel head, whose traitorous hands my guiltless blood hath shed.
Then, by the gods that through the raging waves brought thee, brave Trojan, to old Latium, and great Quirinus placed now in heaven, by the Gradinus that with shield of brass defendest Rome, by the overburning flames of Vesta and Carpaean towers of Jove, vows Antony to quit thy worthy death, or in performance lose his vital breath.
The like Octavian vows to heaven and thee.
Then go, brave warriors, with successful hap. Fortune shall wait upon your rightful arms, and courage sparkle from your princely eyes, darts of revenge to daunt your enemies.
Now, with our armies both conjoined in one, we'll meet the enemy in Macedon. Emathian fields shall change her flowery green, and dye proud Flora in a sadder hue. Silver Stramonia, whose fair crystal waves once sounded great Alcides' echoing fame, when as he slew that fruitful-headed snake, which Lerna long time fostered in her womb, shall in more tragic accent and sad tunes echo the terror of thy dismal fight. Haemus shall fat his barren fields with blood, and yellow Ceres spring from wounds of men. The toiling husbandmen, in time to come, shall with his harrow strike on rusty helms, and find and wonder at our swords and spears, and with his plow dig up brave Romans' graves.
And they exit, and there ends Act 4. I thought it was going to take a bit longer to actually get to this point, but apparently not. Yeah, that's an interesting act. Yeah, I have... Well, I mean, I feel like this is kind of like they're letting the ghosts and divine beings slash supernatural, preternatural, whatever you want to call them, beings do all the sort of heavy lifting rather than going, yeah, let's try just work together. I mean, we hate the same people and stuff or something. Alan, then Bryony.
Yeah, well, I mean, it also would disappoint a fighter ranger who's often among our number, but effectively it's all being described off stage, isn't it? Yeah. Saves on the fake blood.
Well, they probably spent it all on Caesar, to be fair, and Pompey, of course, and Cornelia, and Calpurnia, who I thought she was gonna, because she goes, you know, I do give up myself, but there's no indication whether she actually kills herself in the way that Cornelia does. Also, you know, trigger warning for suicides, for everything, coming a bit late, but yeah, Bryony.
Yeah, they lost me a bit, that act. I'm not going to lie. I feel like if you were going to do some trimming to this play, that would be the first place to start. Well, from what we've read, I mean, 5 might be even worse, I don't know. But just, yeah, I was expecting exciting things with a ghost coming and it, I don't know. But I suppose it wasn't the whole act. It was just that last bit, really, where I just kind of, my mind wandered somewhat.
Well, I guess you could technically just have like the ghost from, you know, Spanish tragedy going revenge, revenge, or something like that. I don't know. Or, you know, the ghost from what's his face? Misfortunes of Arthur, who also has like sort of there's a ghost in that where he kind of it's not even Arthur's ghost, but anyway, basically a guy he killed, and he kind of goes, yeah, I'm gonna mess up their lives because they killed me. And apparently, if I remember correctly, the actor had written it himself because he disagreed with the way it was written, which was kind of funny. Anyway, that's, you can go watch that on our YouTube. It's somewhere under Misfortunes of Arthur. It's quite a tragic play, but quite funny. Quite funny. Fun fact. Anyway, any other thoughts before we leap into the final act? Because I mean, this is speeding along quite nicely. Lynn looks pensive. I can see Kyle also thinking, like, sort of the cogs working over there.
Yeah, it's interesting that the division between Octavian and Antony appears so early, and Caesar has to be like, you guys need to bury the hatchet until at least I'm revenged. It's like, why is revenging his death so important? It's not like that's going to save the Roman state. It's not like putting down the assassins, defeating the assassins is actually going to make things better. It's more like revenge for its own sake. So that sort of accusation that Caesar was excessively ambitious and really kind of wicked, not a good person, I think maybe is coming out in this. Revenge me. It's all about me. Me. Don't really care about Rome in the end.
Yeah, but also, I mean, it is a student play, so it's kind of like, let's just get all the blood and all the fights and all the things. Yeah. Also, it's Oxford, not Cambridge. I think I said Cambridge earlier, but yeah, anyway. Kyle.
I agree, and I love what Alan put in the chat. Roman modus operandi, bury the hatchet in each other.
Right?
This really feels like, I mean, I keep trying to think, are they being monarchical? I mean, is that a Republican, right? Because, if Caesar's bad, then the king is bad in a sense, or, that kind of ambition. But it just seems like everybody's bad, and there's just a lot of death and revenge for fun.
Yeah, that's what you were saying.
Yeah, well, I mean, the alleged motivation for the assassination of Caesar was to stop it becoming a monarchical system. But it was the usual power struggle between a very small group of the elite, who all quite like the idea of a single ruler, providing it was them.
Yeah, pretty much. And also kind of, I mean, I think yesterday, in the previous session, which obviously was yesterday for us, but now it's kind of, I mean, you can see it in the previous video, obviously. It might be the same day for you. I don't know if you binge watch these. Maybe you do. Hopefully you do, as I do. It kind of, like Rob was referring to, this could be read as a sort of reflection of Roman society, but it's also a reflection of Elizabethan, or almost Jacobean, depending on when it was written / performed, society. So, I guess we can debate that for a bit. Discuss.
I was wondering if the Republican element, because you expect that with this play. This is the end of the Republic, essentially, in the beginning of the Empire. But I don't see any Republican moments arising at all. That's what's kind of curious to me, is that they're there and then they're gone, and it's just ambition, right? Is that you're saying?
Agreed. Yeah. It's not about saving their form of government and preventing one-man rule. It's just like, we don't like Caesar. He's a bad person. He's too ambitious. He's too full of himself. We just don't like him. Stabby, stabby, stab, stab, stab. Yeah. It seems really more personal, which makes it kind of more petty, I think. Makes it kind of, yeah.
Elizabeth, sorry. Yeah,
I just like the kind of the collegiate thing, the way they all kind of gang up on him. I find that just to be very, very insidious, because especially Brutus, because he was one that Caesar helped the most. And I just find that it's like a very modern commentary on the politics of the UK at the moment, and the way things are kind of going. I think that it has a lot of echoes in the concept of politics as well. I think this story just always has come down a lot You see it in lots of different versions in different films and shows and things. And I was thinking of like the Ides of March and stuff like that. I think that it's very timeless and it's very well executed in this script.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like sometimes I do find myself tuning out because obviously I have to keep track of what's going on as well. But then there's moments where I tune back in and it's like, this is actually good writing. It's not like it's not bad writing, which is very encouraging. And also the rhyme just makes it sort of like more, well, maybe not accessible, but it just kind of, you know, it makes it faster in a way, which is kind of like, I mean, we've already killed 2 people, reinstated Cleopatra in Egypt by this point, I assume, because that's what, you know, the first 2 acts were about. Anthony probably fell in love with her at some point. And, you know, we've murdered Caesar. We've done all the history by this point. Like, historically speaking, we're quite ahead in time. In playtime, though, we're still like beginning of Act 5. Yeah. Any other thoughts before we launch into the final act, which sounds very terminal? Elizabeth.
Yeah, just speaking to what you just said, Eric, about time. I think there's a very interesting compression of time in this. I feel like the sequence of events are happening almost on top of each other, when usually you have this kind of like gaps between acts and scenes where you're like, what on earth how long has it been? Has it been 3 months? Has it been a year? But with this one, I think that the events are kind of like spiraling, almost out of control, and it's almost like a crescendo of events occurring, and I like that. I think that's really well executed.
Kyle.
Yeah, I like that too. I mean, I was confused because it feels really contracted in terms of like, if you read your Libby, it's very like, you know, all happening at once in some sense. It might be hard to keep track of, but I think that kind of works weirdly, like you're saying, dramatically, it kind of works. The one thing I wonder about those, like in plays like this, and just thinking in terms of like how you perform them, all the characters feel like they're saying their lines, they're just coming on and saying their lines rather than to each other. What do you do with that to make it entertaining and, you know, for a modern audience? I wonder.
Alan?
I'm just wondering whether, in fact, the invisible character is the audience. Each of them are coming on and basically doing a stage speech of their own for their own benefit, their own ego, rather than communicating with each other.
Yeah.
You know, they're all basically their own elevator pitch.
Yeah, but also it's kind of, I mean, discourse, when you do get into the dialogue, like, you know, like we had with Octavius and Antony in the very previous scene, like that we just finished, they are actually quite like, yeah, we're gonna go and do this, or you know, like Brutus and Cassius conspiring to sort of, you know, not murder Caesar, but actually, you know, get sort of the army together and, you know, pick the battleground and what's going to happen and all that. That actually feels quite dynamic. I mean, sort of like maybe they're standing around a table going, shit, what are we going to do? We're going to get murdered if we stay here, basically. But also, yeah, you have these long speeches with a lot of mythological references, which, I mean, okay, I love my mythology, but it's also conflating like Greek mythology and Roman mythology. And yeah, it's just, some of it is going over my head. Yeah. So I don't know what you would do with that. I mean, Bryony is probably the most experienced of the three of us, as well as Lynn, who has been sort of our resident costume designer person, and Elizabeth, has some experience in acting, I hope. That's my get out clause. But yeah, I don't know what you do with these kind of speeches. Any thoughts before we move on? Elizabeth, then Brian.
I was kind of shocked at some points by how dense the references were, because you get like 7 or 8 in one small speech, and I thought to myself, okay, this is one of those ones where it's for the writers of the text and perhaps a little bit for the actors, but it's going to go over the audience's head. It's something that's not, the audience is not going to be able to pick that many references and catch that many Greek characters and Roman characters from mythology in a speech. They're not going to be able to make those connections. I think it does better when it's talking about things like flowers, or you know, and it has many references to like violets and garlands and laurel wreaths. I thought, okay, yeah, I know, I can tell a violet from a rose, you know. I feel like that's, at those moments, it catches the audience a little bit better than when it has those very, very dense references to Roman and Greek mythology. I think those ones are a little bit obtuse.
Yeah. Alan, then Lynn, then Bryony, and then we shall move on.
I think actually, if this was a university play, which is what we believe it is, the audience would probably have been the academic community, so the students and maybe some of the tutors, all of whom would have been subject to total immersion training in Latin and Greek myth, history, geography, and all the rest of it, because that was the core curriculum. So I suspect that we're looking at a slightly different situation as if we were looking at a playhouse play, where it was for the oi polloi, who wouldn't necessarily have had that same depth of reference.
Yeah, true. And well, I mean, we did like sort of, there was the conceited peddler, which is sort of, you know, basically making a mockery of sort of all this. It's basically making fun of student life and students in a different university, Cambridge, which is why I got this confused, which is no relation anyway. And yeah, that's kind of an interesting thing. Sort of they also heavily drop like sort of, I think it was Thomas Randolph possibly dropped a lot of mythological references in that one, basically to insult everybody else, which is always fun. Lynn, and then Brian.
Yeah, the mythological references are a challenge. The other thing I noticed is that the syntax is a little twisted. I mean, it's like you have a lot of relative clauses within relative clauses, and the word order is sometimes unconventional, like we move the verb to the end of the sentence, and so all of the parsing that would take some work, and delivering it so that the audience could track the syntax would be a challenge.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I mean, but there are sort of, it's compared to the Seneca that we've done, it certainly makes more sense. I mean, I think that one had like 14ers, if I'm not mistaken, at some points. And it was like, yes, we shall try to keep, because this is a translation, we shall try to keep to the rhyme and the sort of meter and all that stuff, which was quite sort of...
I've seen worse. But
yeah. Yeah, it wasn't bad though. It was just very, very heavy all the time. Bryony, would you like to add to this, or shall we just, Oh, that's not fair. Anyway, but then you're gonna speak as soon as you speak first. So, Act 5, the prologue, enter discord.
The baleful harvest of my joy, thy woe, gins ripen, Brutus. Heavens command it so. Pale sad Avernus opes his yawning jaws, seeking to swallow up thy murderous soul. The Furies have proclaimed a festival, and mean today to banquet with thy blood. Now heavens array you in your cloudy weeds, wrap up the beauty of your glorious lamp, and dreadful chaos of sad dreary night, thou sun that climbest up to the eastern hill, and in thy chariot rides with swift steeds drawn, in thy proud jollity and radiant glory, go back again and hide thee in the sea. Darkness today shall cover all the world. Let no light shine but what your swords can strike from out their steely helms and fiery shields. Furies and ghosts, with your blue burning lamps, in mazing terror ride through Roman ranks. With dread affrighted those stout champions' hearts, all Stygian fiends now leave whereas you dwell, and come into the world and make it hell.
Exit Discord. Act 5, Scene 1. Enter Cassius, Brutus, Titinius, Cato Jr. with an army marching. Thus far we march with unresisted arms, subduing all that did our powers withstand. Laodicea, whose high-reared walls fair Laius washeth with her silver wave, and that brave monument of Perseus' fame, with Tersos veiled to us her vaunting pride. Fair Rhodes, I weep to think upon thy fall. Thou wert too stubborn, else thou still hadst stood inviolate of Cassius' hurtless hand. That was my nurse, wherein in my youth I drew the flowing milk of Greekish eloquence. Proud Cappadocia saw her king captive, and Dolabella vaunting in the spoils of slain Trebonius, as fall as springing tree, seated in lovely Tempe's pleasant shades, whom beauteous spring with blossoms brave hath decked, and sweet Favonia, mantled all in green, by winter's rage doth loose his flowery pride, and hath each twig bared by northern winds. Thus from the conquest of proud Palestine, hither in triumph have we marched along, making our force commanding rule to stretch from fair Euphrates' crystal flowing waves unto the sea which yet weeps Io's death, slain by great Hercules' repenting hand.
Of all the places by my sword subdued, pity of thee, poor Xanthus, moves me most. Thrice hast thou been besieged by thy foe, and thrice to save thy liberty hast felt the fatal flames of thine own cruel hand. First being besieged by Harpalus the Mede, the stern performer of proud Cyrus' wrath. Next when the Macedonian Philip's son did raise his engines gainst thy battered walls, proud Xanthus that did scorn to bear the yoke that all the world was forced to sustain. Last when that I myself did girt thy walls with troops of high resolved Roman hearts, rather than thou wouldst yield to Brutus' sword, or stain the maiden honour of thy town, didst sadly fall as proud Numantia, scorning to yield to conquering Scipio's power.
And now to thee, Philippi, are we come, whose fields must twice feel Roman cruelty, and flowing blood like to Dacian plains, when proud Eteocles on his foaming steed rides in his fury through the Argian troops, now making great Erastus give him way, now beating back Tydeus' puissant might. The ground not dried from sad Pharsalian blood will now be turned to a purple lake, and bleeding heaps and mangled bodies slain shall make such hills as shall surpass in height the snowy Alps and airy Apennines. Titinius?
A scout brought word, but now that he descried warlike Anthonius and young Caesar's troops marching in fury over Thessalian plains, as great Gradinius, when in angry mood, he drives his chariot down from heaven's top, and in his wheels whirleth revenge and death. Here by Philippi they will pitch their tents, and in these fields, fatal to Roman lives, hazard the fortune of the doubtful fight.
Welcome thou this long expected day, on which dependeth Roman liberty. Now Rome, thy freedom hangeth in suspense, and this the day that must assure thy hopes.
Great Jove, and thou Trionian warlike queen, armed with thy amazing deadly Gorgon's head, strengthen our arms that fight for Roman wealth. And thou, stern Mars, and Romulus thy son, defend that city which yourself begun. All heavenly powers assist our rightful arms, and send down silver-winged victory to crown with laurels our triumphant crests.
My mind that's troubled in my vexed soul, oppressed with sorrow and with sad dismay, misgives me this will be a heavy day.
I think not now, and these are last extremes. This time craves courage, not despairing fear.
Fie, till disdain thy former valiant acts, to say thou feignest now in this last act.
My mind is heavy, and I know not why, but cruel fate doth summon me to die.
Sweet brute, let not thy words be ominous signs of so misfortunate and sad event. Heaven and our valour shall us conquerors make.
Exit Cato Jr. What bastard fear hath taunted our dead hearts, or what unglorious, unwounded thought hath changed the valor of our daunted minds? What? Are our arms grown weaker than they were? Cannot this hand that was Caesar, proud Caesar's death, send all Caesarians headlong that same path? Look how our troops in sun-bright arms do shine, with vaunting plumes and dreadful bravery. The wrathful steeds do check their iron bits, and with a well-graced terror strike the ground, and keeping times in war's sad harmony. And then hath Brutus any cause to fear? Myself, like valiant Peleus, worthy son, the noblest wight that ever Troy beheld, shall of the adverse troops such havoc make, the sad Philippi shall in blood will bewail the cruel massacre of Cassius' sword. And then hath Brutus any cause to fear?
No outward shews of puissance or of strength can help a mind dismayed inwardly. Leave me, sweet lords, a while unto myself.
In the meantime, take order for the fight. Drums, let your fearful amazing thunder play, and with their sound heaven's brazen towers and all the earth fill with like fearful noise, as when that Boreas from his iron cave, with boisterous furies striving in the waves, comes swelling forth to meet his blustering foe. They both do run with fierce tempestuous rage, and heaves up mountains of the watery waves. The god Oceanus trembles at the stroke.
What hateful furies vex my tortured mind? What hideous sights appall my grieved soul? As when Orestes after mother slain, not being yet at Scythian's altars purged, behold the grisly visages of fiends, and ghastly furies which did haunt his steps. Caesar upbraves my sad ingratitude. He saved my life in sad Pharsalian fields, that I in Senate house might work his death. Oh, this remembrance now doth wound my soul, more than my poniard did his bleeding heart.
Enter the ghost.
Brutus, ingrateful Brutus, seest thou me? Anon in field again thou shalt me see.
Stay, whatsoe'er thou art, O for fiend below, raised from the deep by enchanter's bloody gall, or fury sent from phlegetonic flames, or from Cocytus for to end my life, be then Megaera or Tisiphone, or of Eumenides' ill-boding crew. Fly me not now, but end my wretched life. Come, grisly messenger of sad mishap, trample in blood of him that hates to live, and end my life and sorrow all at once.
Accursed traitor, damned homicide, knowest thou not me, to whom for 40 honours thou 23 ghastly wounds did give? Now dare no more for to behold the heavens, for they today have destined thine end, nor lift thine eyes unto the rising sun, that ne'er shall live for to behold it set, nor look not down into the hellish shades. There stand the Furies thirsting for thy blood. Fly to the field, but if thou thither goest, there Antony's sword will pierce thy traitorous heart. Brutus, today my blood shall be revenged, and for my wrong and undeserved death, thy life to thee a torture shall become, and thou shalt oft amongst the dying groans of slaughtered men that bite the bleeding earth, with that like baleful cheer might thee befall, and seek for death that flies so wretched white, until to run the honour of the fight, and dreadful vengeance of supernal ire, thine own right hand shall work my wished revenge, and so fare ill, hated of heaven and men.
Stay, Caesar, stay! Protract my grief no longer. Rip up my bowels, glut thy thirsting throat with pleasing blood of Caesar's guilty heart. But see he's gone, and yonder murder stands. See how he points his knife unto my heart. Althea raveth for her murdered son, and weeps the deed that she herself hath done. And Meleager, would thou livest again, but death must expiate. Althea's come. Aye, death the guerdon that my deeds deserve. The drums do thunder forth dismay and fear, and dismal triumphs sound my fatal knell. Furies, I come to meet you all in hell.
Exit Brutus, enter Cato, wounded. Cato Jr.
Bloodless and faint, Cato, yield up thy breath, while strength and vigour in these arms remained, and may be able for to wield my sword. So long I fought, and sweet Rome, for thy sake, feared not effusion of my blood to make. But now my strength and life do fail at once, my vigour leaves my cold and feeble joints, and I, my sad soul, must power forth in blood. O virtue, whom philosophy extols, thou art no essence, but a naked name, bond slave to fortune, weak and of no power, to succour them which always honoured thee. Witness my father's and mine own sad death, who for our country spent our latest breath. But oh, the chains of death do hold my tongue, mine eyes waxed dim, I faint, I die. O heaven, help Rome in this extremity.
Where shall I go to tell the saddest tale that ere the Roman tongue was forced to speak? Rome is overthrown, and all that for her fort, this sun that now hath seen so many deaths. When from the sea he heaved his cloudy head, then both the arms full of hope and fear did wait the dreadful trumpet's fatal sound, and straight revenge from Stygian bands let loose. Possessed had all hearts and banished hence, fear of their children, wife, and little home, country's remembrance, and had quite expelled, with lost departed care of life itself. Anger did sparkle from our beauteous eyes, our trembling fear did make our helms shake. The horse had now put on the rider's wrath, and with its hoofs did strike the trembling earth. When a clarion sounds did then both gin meet, both like and rage, now dust gins rise. And earth doth emulate the heaven's clouds, then yet beauteous was the face of cruel war. In goodly terror it might seem to be, fair shields, gay swords, and golden crests did shine, their spangled plumes did dance for solity, as nothing privy to their master's fear, but quickly rage and cruel Mars had stained this shining glory with a sadder hue. A cloud of darts that darkened heaven's light, horror instead of beauty did succeed, and her bright arms with dust and blood were foiled. Now Lucius falls, here Drusus takes his end, here lies Hortensius weltering in his gore. Here, there, and everywhere men fall and die, yet Cassius, shew not that thy heart doth faint, but to the last gasp for Romans' freedom fight. And when sad death shall be thy labour's end, yet boast thy life thou didst for country spend. Enter Anthony.
Queen of revenge, imperious nemesis, that in the wrinkles of thine angry brows wraps dreadful vengeance and pale frightful death, rain down the bloody showers of thy revenge, and make our swords the fatal instruments to execute thy furious, baleful ire. Let grim death seat her on my lance's point, which piercing the weak armor of my foes shall lodge her there within their coward breasts. Dread, horror, vengeance, death, and bloody hate, in this sad fight my murthering sword await.
Exit Anthony, enter Titinius.
Where may I fly from this accursed soil, or shun the horror of this dismal day? The heavens are colored in mourning sable weeds. The sun doth hide his face and fears to see this bloody conflict, sad catastrophe. Nothing but groans of dying men are heard, nothing but blood and slaughter may be seen, and death the same in sundry shapes arrayed.
Enter Cassius, who apparently exited, but then, anyway, in vain, no Cassius, all in vain, 'tis heaven and destiny thou strivest against.
What better hope or more accepted tidings is noble Cassius from the battle bring?
This hapless hope that fate's decreed have, Philippi field must be our hapless grave.
And then must this accursed and fatal day end both our lives and Roman liberty. Must now the name of freedom be forgot, and all Rome's glory in Thessalia end.
As those lost in boisterous troublous seas, beaten with rage of billows stormy strife, and without stars to sail against stars and wind. Possibly against storms and wind, in dreary darkness and in cheerless night, without or hope or comfort endless are. So are my thoughts dejected with dismay, which can not look for but poor Rome's decay. But yet did Brutus live? Did he but breathe? Well, or lay not slumbering in eternal night? His welfare might infuse some hope or life, or at the least thing bring death with more content. Wearied I am, though, through labor of the fight. Then, sweet Titinius, rage thou through the field, and either glad me with my friend's success, or quickly tell me what my care doth fear, how breathless he upon the ground doth lie, that at thy words I may fall down and die.
Cassius, I go to seek thy noble friend. Heaven grant my goings have a prosperous end.
Exit Titinius. Oh, go Titinius, and till thy return here will I sit disconsolate alone, Rome's sad mishap and mine own woes to moan. Oh, 10 times treble fortunate were you, which in Pharsalia's bloody conflict died with those brave lords now laid in bed of fame, which ne'er protected their most blessed days to see the horror of this dismal fight. Why died I not in those Emathian plains, where great Domitius fell by Caesar's hand, and swift Euripus down his bloody stream bare shields and helms and trains of slaughtered men? But heavens reserved me to this luckless day, to see my country's fall and friends decay. But why doth not Titinius yet return? My trembling heart misgives me what's befallen, and Brutus is dead. Aye, hark how willingly the echo iterates those deadly words. The whistling winds with their morning sound do fill mine ears with noise of Brutus' death. The birds now chanting a more cheerless lay in doleful notes record my friend's decay, and Philomela now forgets old wrongs, and only Brutus waileth in her songs. I hear some noise. Oh, 'tis Titinius. No, 'tis not he, for he doth fear to wound my grieved ears with what that heart's thrilling sound. Why dost thou feed my thoughts with lingering hope? Why dost thou then prolong my life in vain? Tell me my sentence, and so end my pain. He comes not yet, nor will at all. Linger not, Cassius, for to hear reply. What if he come and tells me he is slain? That will only increase my dying pain. Brutus, I come to company thy soul, which by Cocytus wandereth all alone. Brutus, I come prepared to meet thy friend. Thy brother's fall procures this baleful end. Cassius possibly stabs himself. Enter Titinius.
Brutus doth live, and like a second Mars rages in heat of fury mongst his foes. Then cheer thee, Cassius. Lo, I bring relief and news of power to ease thy stormy grief. But see where Cassius weltereth in his blood, doth beat the earth, and yet not fully dead. O Cassius, speak. O speak to me, sweet friend. Brutus doth live upon thy dying eyes, and look on him that hope and comfort brings. Oh no, he will not look on me, but cries that by my long delays he hapless dies. Accursed villain, murderer of thy friend, why hath thy lingering thus wrought Cassius's end? How cold thy care was to prevent this deed. How slow thy love that made no greater speed. Care winged is, and burning love can fly. My care was fearless, love but flattery. But since in my life my love was never shown, now in my death I'll make it to be known. A cursed weapon that such blood could spill. Nay, cursed then the author of this deed. Yet both offended, both shall punished be. I'll take revenge of the knife of me. It shall make a passage for my life to pass, cause through my life his master, cause through my life his master murdereth was, and I on it again will venged be, cause it did work my Cassius's tragedy, then this revenge shall be to end my life, mine to disdain with baser blood the knife.
Enter Brutus, the ghost, following him.
What doest thou still pursue me, ugly fiend? Is this it that thou thirsted for so much? Come with thy tearing claws and rend it out. Would thy appeaseless rage be slaked with blood? This sword today hath crimson channels made, but here's the blood that thou wouldst drink so fain. Then take this piercer, broach this traitor's heart. Or if thou thinkest death too small a pain, drag down this body to proud Erebus. Through black Cocytus and infernal Styx, Lethian waves and fires of Phlegethon, boil me or burn, tear my hateful flesh, devour, consume, pull, pinch, plague, pain this heart. Hell craves her right, and here the Furies stand, and all the hellhounds compass me around, each seeking for a part of this same prey. Alas, this body is lean, thin, pale, and wan, nor can it all your hungry mouth suffice. Oh, 'tis the soul that they stand gaping for, an endless matter for to prey upon. Renewed still as tissue's pricked heart, then clap your hands, let hell with joy resound. Here it comes flying through this airy round.
Possibly Brutus dies, and yeah.
Hell take their hearts that this ill deed have done, and vengeance follow till they be overcome, nor live to applaud the justice of this deed. Murder her own guilty hand doth plead.
Enter Discord.
Aye, now my longing hopes have their desire. The world is nothing but a massy heap of bodies slain, the sea a lake of blood, and furies that for slaughter only thirst are with these massacres and slaughters cloyed. Tisiphon's pale and Megaera's thin face is now puffed up and swollen with quaffing blood. Charon, that used but an old rotten boat, must now a Noi rig for to transport the howling souls unto the Stygian Strand. Hell and Elysium must be digged in one, and both will be too little to contain numberless numbers of afflicted ghosts that I myself have tumbling thither sent.
Now, night's pale daughter, since thy bloody joys and my revengeful thirst fulfilled are, do thou applaud what justly heavens have wrought, or murder on the murderer's head is brought.
Caesar, I pitied not thy tragic end, nor tyrants' daggers sticking in thy heart, nor do I that thy deaths with like repaid, but that thy death so many deaths hath made. Now cloyed with blood I'll hie me down below, and laugh to think I caused such endless woe.
Sith my revenge is full accomplished, and my death's causes by themselves are slain, I will descend to mine eternal home, but everlastingly my quiet soul the sweet Elysian pleasure shall enjoy, and walk those fragrant flowery fields at rest, to which not fair Adonis power so rare, nor old Aquinas gardens may compare. There that same gentle father of the spring, mild Zephyrus, doth odours breathe divine, clothing the earth in painted bravery, the which nor winter's rage, nor scorching heat, or summer's sun can make it fall or fade. There with the mighty champions of old time, and great heroes of the golden age, my dateless hours I'll spend in lasting joy.
Thus endeth the play. I have to admit, I was kind of happy that it ended, just because like, you know, suicide after suicide after suicide, it was getting a bit too much, just a little bit. I mean, you know, I get that they all want a death speech, but yeah. Bryony, then Lynn.
I think that's it for me. Like by the end of it, I realised it's just such a student piece, and like it started off quite well. There's some really nice language in it, but there's a lot of problems with this piece for me. Like none of who is anybody apart from Discord, who just is the worst. It's just all of them trying to one up each other, trying to have as many words as each other. Everything's so repetitive because they all seem to want to say the same fucking things. It's just, yeah, it just gets really self-indulgent by the end. And I don't know, maybe there's something here that you could use, but you'd have to work really hard, especially on characterization, because it's completely lacking, I think.
Lynn.
Yeah, all of that. There is some nice language, but it's kind of more poetry than dialogue. I find it a little stilted on average. So I think delivering this in a persuasive way, and the pentameter is so regular and repetitive that I think you're going to risk putting your audience to sleep, because ba-bump, 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 ba-bump. There's so little variety to that. It kind of reminds me of Gorbaduc. Like these long speeches and the difficult syntax that's so hypotactic, and and kind of the staticness of it reminds me of earlier drama. But closet drama was a thing right about now, as Kyle was pointing out in the chat. So I think that's what I'm hearing. Yeah. It's just, it feels really academic, and it has, some kind of dramatic moments, but it doesn't really have very much dynamism or action.
Yeah, I think, as Alan had said, our colleague Alexandra, who isn't here right now, it would have been very sad to sort of have to deal with the fight scenes off stage. Yeah, I know, right? Kyle and then Elizabeth, because I think Kyle raised her hand first.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued by this, by what Lynn just said, by the fact that this is very academic, and the conservative nature of it, the way it's, the way people are isolated, the way they give, like Bryony said, the way they give their speeches, but they don't interact. Because I think, wow, if you see the evolution of drama in this period, you see that how much the theater facilitates the kind of dynamism that we all love, the dialogue, the characterization, as you say, Brandy, that's not here. It's great to me that kind of the populace is what we're missing in this very academic, very conservative, end rhymed, as you mentioned, the pentameter, all that stuff, is so perfect. The breaking of those traditions is what's really exciting I think in this period, and what we love in drama. So yeah, I just had to say that. I think that's so cool.
Elizabeth.
Yeah, I'm with Kyle. I think it's dramatically intriguing. I definitely take on Bryony's points, though. It does have its flaws, and it's not by any means perfect at all. I think it does have some issues with it. I did want to draw attention to the scene where Brutus runs on stage with the ghost of Caesar chasing after him. I thought that was hilarious. And I think for me, the challenges of the play are in tone, where the melodrama kind of dips into comedy. I wondered if that was just my interpretation of it, or if anyone else thought, okay, that was a bit funny as well. It's not supposed to be funny. It wasn't designed to be funny, but it did come out a little bit hilarious.
Yeah, I was trying not to think of like other plays where we've had like we've read Narcissus, which is kind of it's meant to be comedy, and it's really over the top comedy, like sort of, they actually go into the detail of going, yes, this bucket will stand for a pond and that kind of thing. So this is kind of like, this made me think of that, which is not ideal. I mean, you don't really want to be thinking of, these are all the props we have for today. A bucket that will be a pond, that will be somewhere someone is going to drown. It doesn't really want to, help. You don't want to be thinking of that when you're performing something that is, people dying all over the place. But I think it does have some strengths, to be fair, although all the characters by the end are sort of like, kill me, why, kill me. I do like how Discord and the Ghost have it out, though. At the end, it's like the only two people left standing are not really people.
They're kind of like, I'm more insufferable. No, I'm more insufferable.
Yeah. Alan, then
I think actually the question about distinguishing between the various conspirators is maybe a slight diversion, because I think you could actually play it where you've almost got to look at the label to work out which one's which, because they're all much of a muchness. They're all the same type. They're all power-grabbing, entitled posh boys. And it's only by which colour of old school tie they're wearing you can tell the difference.
Bryony then Kyle? No, Kyle then Bryony. Yeah, Bryony then Kyle, since you're muted, so. I'm tired, it's fine.
Okay. No, I was just, thinking about what I was thinking, maybe I was misunderstood last time, but I was thinking about how different this is from popular drama on the theater. How this is very much of a piece with the genre, with this particular genre of like closet drama, as Lynn was saying. And the problems with it that Bryony was mentioning, I see too. I see those same problems. I see them as very distinct problems from the stuff you might find in the popular theater. And I wonder, my curiosity is, what if you juxtapose this with some of those closet dramas like Mary Sidney's drama, right, or Daniel's, or any of their Kid, even with the Garnier. And then saw how this played out. What difference is there? What's compelling about it? Because maybe the mistakes the students make could even be compelling. I wonder about that.
Yeah, to be fair, I seem to remember like the tragedy of Cleopatra or something, where the messenger comes in to tell you what happens to Cleopatra in the Samuel Daniel version / Mary Sidney. I don't really know who anyone is anymore. But basically, he goes, she's dead, but this tells you this over 3 pages of text. I know this because I read it.
That's so traditional. All that's Senecan offstage stuff. All that is so traditional, right? A lot of it.
But then that was more sort of attention grabbing, because you've got him going sort of. But she said this, and then this happened, and then this happened. It's storytelling, but obviously over sort of, you kind of don't want people to, die on stage. But then it's neoclassical in tone, whereas this is just purely academic and yay, death. This is not sponsored by Beyond. Anyway, just like not a message we endorse generally. Brian, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say to try and find a more positive way of looking at the play, because there were moments that I loved, and especially I think the first half holds up a bit better than the second half. But it's very workshoppable. There's a lot that you can learn from this piece for sure. There's lots of different ways that you could look at this and teach from it. Definitely, like, one example is just the females in general. How do you tackle that? How do you still keep, because obviously they did it, I think they've probably over-egged the misogyny, because they're thinking, well, it was worse back then than it is now. I don't know, but yeah, you could look at how relevant that is, whether you can still keep that tone of Roman life, but actually make the females into real characters, you know, that exist that you care about.
Yeah, I'm just also wondering, like, sort of, if you play this alongside stuff like, you know, the Parnassus plays, which are kind of, they're a lot more sort of, I mean, direct and stuff, in some ways, but then there's a lot of references in there that personally I didn't get because I have no idea what was going on in them. Okay, I wasn't present in the read, but I mean, I've seen the videos. I was trying to pay attention and take notes, like a good student anyway, but it's kind of just very sort of, if you don't get the jokes, you're left out, so it's very sort of exclusive, but then so is this in a way. Any last thoughts, since we are Lynn?
Well, yeah, I mean, Cleopatra is not even an onstage character, or at least she isn't in this half. So the women are really underdeveloped, but the men are so not admirable. In other iterations of this story, you feel like some people do the wrong thing for the right reason. You don't have any of that. And I think it's really interesting that the play ends with discord and Caesar's ghost. So whether it means to or not, it draws a kind of parallel between those two. And they basically both say, now everything's going to hell in a handbasket and I'm happy. It's like, discord's like, a bunch of people are dead. Cool. That's what I like. And the ghost is like, yes, now that I've been revenged and there's bodies everywhere and the Tiber's flowing with blood, I'm going to like live in joy for eternity. So, it does kind of, whether it means to or not, really undermine the sort of historical view of Caesar as a hero, as a great man, you know, capital G, capital M. So I mean, there's some interesting stuff there at the end, but it takes an awful long time to get there.
Yeah, that's kind of true. But also, I mean, you do kind of get that thing of Discord and Caesar, I mean, the ghost, you feel like they could have easily been part of things like, you know, Arden of Faversham, or the two, you know, like all those plays that are actually like true crime plays, but they're kind of like framed in this, you know, history versus comedy versus tragedy style, which is kind of very interesting in its own right, like for a different reason. But yeah. Any other last thoughts? Okay.
I just had a last thought. I wonder, I know that they've proven that women were in the audience in early modern popular drama. I wonder if there are women are in the audience in these school plays. I doubt it, right? So that might be part of it, the extra misogyny.
I would have thought it would probably be the student body plus some of the academic staff, so it would be almost definitely a male-only audience.
Kind of like
so they've probably got a little more leeway to be, you know, not politically correct in our terms,
or even appealing at all, right? To female audience.
True.
Yeah, it's probably a lot like club law, where you get like sort of references to sort of this sort of fantastical universe of students versus the town, but then you've got women falling in love with the students, and it's like, yeah, that wouldn't really happen, but hey, details.
Well, Chaucer had it happen.
Yeah, that's true.
I was just reading about one instance where one of the women that were like higher up nobility married one of the players, that because they did so well in the female role. And I was reading something about that recently. So I think there's
always hope. Maybe not for this play though, I don't know. Anyway, I would like to thank the readers. If there's any other last thoughts, please just, okay. I would like to thank the lovely readers for today and for tolerating me as a host. And how do you say? Just if you have any comments, please just either keep them to yourself or put them under the video. I don't know, something like that. Yeah. So yeah, have a good day and come into the world and make it hell.